Hey, welcome to Ministry Mix, where we're bringing you real conversations for the souls and strategies of ministry leaders. I'm Phil Gifford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Richard Pope.
Hello.
Whether you are a seasoned pastor or ministry leader with years of experience, or you're just starting out and leading, this is a conversation and a podcast for you where we'll share stories, insights, and practical tips to help you lead strategically while caring for your soul. Our goal in each one of these episodes is to dive into topics that matter to your mission, your calling, and your growth. Conversation that will help you lead better. So we're excited to be here today, and we're looking at the idea of how a 42-year-old nerd from a pastor's home, that's me, and a 27-year-old hipster became friends.
Yeah, honestly, Phil and I have things in common, but there's a lot of things we don't have in common. Phil has 3 kids. I have a dog. Phil and Pam have been married for how many years?
Almost 20.
Peyton and I have been married for 4 years, 4.5 years. You're Gen X, older Gen X.
I'm an older millennial.
I know.
Thank you.
And I'm older Gen Z.
The zillennial, like that weird micro generation, is kind of where I would find myself.
I'm also kind of in the middle, but of the opposite end. There's a lot of things that Phil and I have different, but we somehow became friends. And I just want to say this, not to make Phil blush. My life has been deeply enriched by my friendship with Phil. I actually just read something on the way here, driving over to Phil's house. We're in his kitchen. He just made me coffee. I drove over here and I was reading this thing, or it was being read to me, I guess. And it talked about how pastors report feeling lonely, but not just lonely, like they don't have significant friendships. And in fact, it said most pastors over the age of 40 report having less than 2 close friends. So something cool happened to me in Phil's life, and now we're friends. Phil, you want to tell our weird, crazy friendship story?
Yeah, well, I met Richard and Peyton during the
My better half.
You're his better half. I've not met Mirsha yet, so
You will. She's a guest on the
I've
next
heard
episode.
her through our headphone sets, breathing heavily, and so I feel like I know her well, and I heard you talk to her plenty. But we met during COVID, and Richard and Peyton were heading to church planter assessment with the Send Network, and during that season, I was working pretty heavily with the assessment team and doing assessments. And this is a virtual meet up because we were working virtually on assessments and trying to understand how to do assessments during COVID. And so we met through Zoom, super fun. But I just remember, whether we had a friendship at that moment or not, it was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
I knew we had a lot in common.
There was a lot of jokes.
We just had fun. It wasn't an interview. I was there to make sure you were going to plant a church and not do damage to the kingdom.
Yeah.
And
You did a bad job. I'm kidding.
There's some potential there. But I just remember it's going, man, first of all, I could see that God had just used you already and was going to use you in a powerful way. And so I was excited to be a small part of that journey. But then also, we just had fun.
Yeah.
We had some conversations. Later on, I got a chance to be involved in your training. And so I can't remember how at some point I gave you my phone number, which I don't know if that was a good thing or the worst decision of my life.
Changed your life for the better.
It certainly changed my life. And I don't think we've ever had a short phone call. They've been at least an hour each phone call.
Unless the call is, do you want to get on Fortnite?
That is true. Hey, what are you doing right now? And so yeah, we started doing training and coaching in that first year. Again, still virtual. I don't think we had even met each other in person. Maybe
we met
one
in person
training.
in passing at some event. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was down in DC.
Yep.
Like a pastor.
And then we went to Topgolf.
There we go. And I'm good at a lot of things.
I didn't go to Topgolf.
Golf is not what I'm good at.
I didn't go.
I don't remember that.
I left.
Okay.
I don't like Topgolf.
That's fair. I'm really bad at Topgolf or golf period. So I should have left.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got to walk through training. I became kind of a person he would call. And then I think our friendship has grown over as something silly as Fortnite.
Battle bus.
So my Fortnite story. My son was about 10. And he wanted to start playing Fortnite. And so I said, well, I'll start to play with you because, good dad, I get to do things with my kid. And we were able to kind of invest some time together. So we actually went and got 2 Xboxes so we could ready up together and play together. And so for a season, it was good until he kind of got too cool for Fortnite.
Just to clarify for people who might not play Fortnite, ready up is when you start a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
insider language.
It's like a battle royale. You play. It's usually games that take about 20 minutes. You go in there.
Yep.
It's last man standing. 100 people drop onto this fictional island. You fight each other. It's not an overly violent game, but they're guns and weapons, and you kind of disappear if you die. And so we can do.
It's not violent, but there's guns and weapons.
Yes. but it's also what
cartoony.
It's cartoony because like what I love about it is I need more humor in my life. Like what we do pastorally is so serious.
I agree.
And so I need to be Darth Vader and do the Macarena over somebody after I just squad wipe. Like
my personal favorite is when there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle season,
yes.
and even though we have different generations, we both love the Turtles.
Of course.
Me and Phil, and then a kids pastor from my church would run around as three of the Turtles and just like.
And Brad from our church.
Yes, Brad.
But he's too mature to spend money on Fortnite, so he doesn't have any of the cool skins.
We have a problem. Help us.
So we'll start a GoFundMe for him.
So assessment. So when me and Phil first met, just to kind of recap some of those points for you guys inside of our Battle Royale love. We're playing Fortnite while we're recording this. We're not, but we might do that one day.
We're going to do an episode where we play and record live.
Season 2, there's a hook. So assessment, my first introduction to Phil was someone who was asking me questions to decide whether or not I could get funding and endorsed as a church planter. From there, he was helping with my coaching and training, cohort-based training. And because of that, I started calling him when I would have a question. And then somehow in that, I remember I started playing Fortnite because of an ad I saw on Facebook, and we realized we both had it. And I remember the first time I played Fortnite with Phil, he doesn't know I was going to say this. I was like, this is kind of weird. I don't really know this guy. But here's what's incredible, and I think this is a sign of God's sovereignty and maybe my childishness and Phil's. Yep. That Fortnite relationship has become... One, we know each other in person. This isn't like long-term dating.
You're in my living room. You're in my kitchen.
We do know each other, but that created this space for us. And I think for me, and as our church has grown, we've had some similar struggles in our churches. It's created a space to just honestly talk. Like we'll be playing Fortnite, and we'll be running over kids, and not all on Fortnite. Let's just clarify that. But we'll be doing all the stupid stuff, and but then we'll also be having these conversations. So one of the things we're going to talk about today, really briefly, is 5 things that friendships do for us. In other words, what are the benefits of friendship? And you might be hearing, guys, we know we need friends. But I read that statistic and I think, man, maybe ministry leaders really need to be reminded the power of friendship. So the first one I'll share, and this is funny because it was how our friendship started, is crisis calls. In other words, it's that moment where you need to help or maybe just to vent, where you're scared or you're worried. And if you're a ministry leader who's never scared, worried, embarrassed, you're doing something right, because I often find myself feeling like I'm at the bottom of abyss. So what would happen in our friendship, and we kind of shared this, is I would call Phil. And I remember one Sunday we had, it was our launch Sunday, middle of COVID, 97 people showed up. And I was like, Phil, do I do 1 service or 2 service next week? I don't know what to do. I remember just going on and on and on to Phil, but I felt safe calling Phil and getting that advice. And I'm thankful for that, Phil, that you've been a friend I can reach out to. What's interesting is I think if I didn't have that in seasons, that not that I'd quit ministry, but man, I'd be way more stressed out. There's something about just laughing and joking and venting that's been helpful for me. Fortnite but we talk about Fortnite. That's been a vehicle for the friendship and like a place to hash this out, but it doesn't have to be that. Right. It's just become a place where we can jump on for an hour, play some games, be goofy, laugh about our issues, but even strategize and just form a basis. We've planned whole sermon series on Fortnite. But that crisis moment, it's like, hey, I've got this thing I'm dealing with. We jump on Fortnite and we'll talk it through. And I remember even it was this summer, like our church was growing like crazy. Every week we're seeing new visitors. Our numbers were, we had essentially over the summer, our church has essentially grown by like 40%. Yeah. But for whatever reason in August, we had one Sunday where like 25% of our church showed up. Yeah. and I was like, it was like the lowest numbers it had been since we launched. Yeah. And I'm like, and I remember texting you. I was like you were telling me like all these cool things that happen. I have baptized 437 people this morning, and we launched 6 churches out of our church after church. Shut up. But and I'm like, dude, we had like 12 people show up, and 5 of them had my last name. It wasn't that bad. But I remember like the first thing you did was actually you called me. Like, right, you were even out to lunch with your team. You're doing something, but you actually called me and was like, dude, you actually okay? Yeah. And that kind of encouragement in a crisis, you need somebody who you can share the rough with and the crisis with. Yeah. The other thing, we've mentioned this already, is I think a friendship in ministry can help you strategize, talking through ideas and refining ideas. Like I think about our churches. We reach very different people. Your church is different than my church.
and in all kinds of ways we could get into, but our churches are very different, but we strategize together a lot.
Yeah, we do.
We test out ideas, we refine them. I remember telling you we were preaching through Colossians starting this Sunday, and I was running some taglines behind you, and you're like, "Yeah, I hate, I hate that."
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was, and it's so much better now because I was like, I ran it by you. I'm pretty sure, like our team's good. I'm not trying to put down any of our leaders, but I'm pretty sure if I ran that by our team, they'd been like, sounds great. Like they wouldn't have thought it at the level of you as a pastor friend or a ministry friend. And so we've strategized some of our things we're doing for outreach, some of the things we're doing. We just learn from each other.
Yeah. It's a lot of times I think we end up leading in a vacuum. And this is not a knock on my church or Phil's church. So if you're from Connecting or Canvas and you hear this is said in love. The people in the church who follow their leader, especially in that lead pastoral, but even if you're leading in kids ministry or whatever, the people who lead under you typically are going to be supportive of you. So when you have an idea, a lot of times they're going to be like, yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, there's a high level of trust.
Correct. Sometimes you need, and I've benefited with this from Phil. It's not just his bad sermon taglines, but there's been times where I've had an idea and I've taken it to Phil, and Phil's just eviscerated it, and I've just been like, wow, I'm not doing that now. And I remember one specific instance, we were planning an event. I can't even remember the event, but I remember telling Phil about it. And we talked about it at our flow meeting. At the time, there was like 3 of us on staff, and it was like year 1, maybe beginning of year 2. And my team's like, yeah, this is a really good idea, Richard. And I'm like, yeah, I just came up with it like on the toilet last night. I tell Phil about it, and Phil's like, do you remember this, Phil? You said you came up with it on the toilet. I know where you got it from.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, you did.
You sure it was this friendship or another friendship?
100% you, Phil. And it was on Fortnite. That's the thing. So that's strategizing, but not just strategizing. Something we say at Canvas, and it's super cliche, prayer is our primary strategy. One of the things I love about our relationship, Phil, that I would encourage those of you who maybe don't have deep pastoral friends outside of your church to pursue. I know that when I ask Phil for advice, or if I ask Phil to just cry with me or laugh with me, I know you're also praying for me and supporting me. Like one of my favorite things about our friendship that I don't think about until I get outside of it is we do have this rhythm of like, how was Sunday? Are you okay? What's going on? And when there's a bad Sunday, yeah, I called you, but man, you've shown up for me so many times. It's not just strategy.
Yeah, because you had the same thing happen to you, like
2
in
weeks
June.
later.
Yeah, in June.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm about to close it. I think I'm going to close. I think I'm going to go sell copiers again.
Yep.
That's another episode. Weird jobs before we were pastors.
We should definitely do that.
Yeah, just knowing that there's someone who loves you and is going to show up for you and pray for you and care for you. I would just say this: if you're in ministry and you don't have a friend who prays for you, who is not a member of your church, so they're an unbiased, just loving, praying friend, that's a disservice to your soul. I know that I have a friend in Abingdon who's praying for me, and I hope you know the same. In the Dirty Bury. That's Salisbury.
I like it. Well, I think kind of even to the big picture here for a second, we're part of a network of churches. We're part of the Sun Network. We're a part of a church planting organization. We're a part of the Baptist Convention of Maryland, Delaware. Like, we are a part of local associations of churches. So we actually are in some ways starting more connected with local pastors and ministry leaders than the most, because
it's true.
Because there are opportunities for us to go to annual meetings, to have some prayer events. But our friendship's not that level. It's deeper than that. And I think it's not just once a month showing up for like
a pastor's lunch,
where
which are great.
Yeah.
But not enough.
That's what I'm getting at. It's like, I think you can almost have this idea that I have ministry friends because you show up at a pastor's lunch.
Right.
But like, until our friendship really took root, I feel like that's showing a whole nother level of what it can look like.
Yeah. Like
to the point where I even tell people, like, sometimes our churches are becoming sister churches because like we literally do the same thing sometimes. Like, oh, that worked, I'm going to go do it. And so we just did a soul care series.
Yep.
Prayer and support, like we'd come along each other well. The fourth thing I think that friendships and ministries can bring is we can help laugh through our problems. And I'm not you as the problem, but like the problems in our ministry.
He's being mean to me.
But I think you need a safe place to laugh through our issues, joke about them, talk smack about what's going on in your church. But just like, so much of ministry is hard.
Yeah.
But it also is humorous.
Yeah. There's a lot of funny moments.
But someone to laugh about and just to remind you of the big picture, that this might be a crisis you're going through,
Yeah.
But I think learning to laugh through. I mean, think about all this happened in your life through our friendship. Like when you diagnosed with terminal cancer early on in our
You
friendship.
can't laugh right now.
I'm trying not to. You're working really hard to try to make me laugh.
No, I would never.
But yeah, like we make what was the? I mean, I've made jokes about. I shouldn't say this in the podcast. I've made jokes about your terminal cancer.
He's allowed to. It's funny.
It is. Well, yeah, but I think taking the hard things and bringing the sense of humor that God's given us to that is something that friends can do. And because I know you well enough and you know me well enough, and our personalities also lean toward taking sarcasm, taking a comical view at life. We can laugh with each other through our problems.
Yeah. And I would say, just to what Phil just said, if you don't have a friend who you know well enough to laugh about the hard things, you don't have a friend.
It's a good metric.
Right? You have an acquaintance, and you might have a lowercase friend. My closest friends are the friends I can joke about terminal cancer with. Because that cliche, like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Mm-hmm. That sounds like that's like a t-shirt for pastoral ministry. That should be on a billboard. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. So I just think there's health in having friends. That's a good metric. Like, can I laugh about bad crap with them? Can we say crap on this podcast?
Probably.
Does that make it explicit?
It's our podcast.
Do we have to put the explicit thing
Probably
on?
Not.
Good.
We might eventually, but not for that.
Not because of me. Phil has a potty mouth.
Of course, yes.
Hey, but that leads into this next thing. The segue there. If you have a friend you can laugh about the bad stuff with, then they're probably really a friend. But also, if you have a friend you can laugh about bad stuff with, one of the benefits is these soul checks. I know I battle with depression. That's a hormonal imbalance, not just situationally. And I know that Phil will call me on my crap, because you have. Mm-hmm. There's been seasons where we're like, we're on Fortnite. It all happens over Fortnite. I just gotta be honest. But we'll be talking, and you'll basically like be. One of the things you said to me was, "Oh, you're depressed again. Your church isn't cool enough for you." And it sounds like jest, but in that moment, it's this reminder, like, why do I do what I do, and those encouragements. I think since we've really developed our friendship, really the last couple years of this 4 years knowing each other, can think of multiple times for both of us where it's been like, "Hey, are you good, bro? Do I need to call somebody?" Hey,
you felt a little bit, you were a little bit harsh in that moment, or you feel a little bit, you're withdrawn a little bit, or whatever it might be. Like, the closer you know somebody, the more you see the micro signs of soul issues.
Whoa, yeah.
Right? Because if you're just an acquaintance with somebody, like, with your spouse, and I know you've only been married for 4 years, so I'm assuming that even after 4 years, there is just a way your spouse can walk into a room.
Yes.
That you go, what's wrong?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, or what did I do?
Yeah, typically that's the question.
What did I do?
Was I yelling too loud on Fortnite again?
Yes, that is the best part, is hearing you apologize to Peyton regularly, but have no intention to do anything differently, by the way. But I don't think that, yes, we should we should be friends with our spouse. Our spouse is our primary friendship, our first friendship. Right. Like, as much as we joke about playing Fortnite together and all those sorts of things, having somebody in your life that can pick up on the micro warnings that something is wrong is so valuable for a guardrail in your life.
I agree.
Having that level of friendship.
Something I wrote in the notes, and I know we have some discussion questions, but something I wrote in the notes that I just want to say that I think I've seen modeled in our friendship. Loneliness isn't always a choice, but often pastors choose it. Mm-hmm. There's definitely life situations where the world just shuts. I mean, there's marginalization. There's all these things, but I really do believe, and this, if you get mad and say this isn't true for you, and you send us a nasty message, like, that's okay. For most of us, friendship is a choice. Like, we choose to invest in people and to open our lives up to people. You said in another episode, episode 2, that it can be hard to open up to people. Mm-hmm. I think the danger is, if you never open up to people, you're never going to reap the benefit of friendship. Yeah. So just an encouragement. You need those soul checks, friends. Like, you need those people who love you enough to dig in on your life, but you've got to open up to experience that.
Yeah. And you got to create margin.
Yeah.
Like, you got to start playing Fortnite.
Every night. I'm kidding. It's not that bad.
It's a free game unless you buy turtle skins.
How many skins have you bought?
Not that many.
Oh.
Yes. Well, you have adult money without kids. I have 3 kids. So it's a whole different conversation.
I bet I spend as much on my dog as you do. I'm kidding. That might not be a lie, though.
We're not going to put that on the podcast as far as numbers go, but I think you're right. We need friendships. Loneliness isn't always a choice. There are times when you are, as a ministry leader, isolated, and sometimes pastors listening where there aren't close proximity, and you don't have some of those random hobbies that pull you in relationships. Right. But oftentimes pastors would choose that out of either, I don't want to necessarily assign motive, but sometimes it's just general busyness. Fear. I think to have a true gospel friendship, you've got to address your arrogance that I'm either better, or I don't need this, or I don't need help, or I've got this all figured out. Like, a lot of pastors have an unhealthy level of, and I wouldn't say like, it's a ministry prideful. I know what I'm doing. Right. I am in this position. I've been doing this for X, Y, and Z. You can't teach me. Like, yeah. I mean, a guy like me, 42 years old, I got my doctorate. I'm a relatively educated dude with 20 plus years of pastoral experience.
You're Dr. Phil.
I'm Dr. Phil. I learn a lot from the brand new church planters who are just, including yourself, who are just walking into the ministry. So having that posture of I can learn and grow with anybody is so key. I also think we have to kill the competition.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you said that. If you're so insecure, and I mean this with kindness, but also maybe convictionally, if you're so insecure as a leader that your friends win, hurts, friendship's going to be hard. But when you get over that, there's been seasons where Phil would have crazy good attendance and I would have no attendance. And there's been seasons where I have crazy high attendance and Phil has horrible attendance. If our friendship was based on our security, in like our
and doing the same thing strategy wise, like we're both running the same play, we're testing out something, and yours wins and mine loses.
Yeah, because ultimately God builds the kingdom. But but if my ability to be friends with Phil was only based in being better in a moment, or vice versa, that friendship's not going to sustain. If you're so excited about your good attendance that you can't, let's be honest, pastors care about attendance. Look, let's just kill that myth. We do. If you're so excited about your good attendance that you can't hear or love a friend who had a bad Sunday, then that friendship thing's going to be hard for you, because when the tables are turned, that guilt and that weirdness, you just can't have that in a friendship.
But I also want to, on the flip side, like, competition has a drastically negative side. Like, competition has a lot, like competitiveness, and like you said, if you can't celebrate the wins of your faster friends, that's a bad place. But at the same time, I think there can be a healthy side of competitiveness. And I don't mean that like trying to win, but like you and I are both chasing after growing our church right now. Like we're both, if you watch us play Fortnite, we play the exact same way, and our friends,
shotguns and some machine guns, we're
gonna hear a fight and we're gonna chase that, like,
and we're gonna die.
There is very little strategy sometimes. Well, there's strategy, but like, we're very aggressive. Yeah. And we're very much so like, think we can take on more than we can. Like,
if you saw us playing, you would think that we had a strategy because we do the same thing at the same time. It's actually just that we both want to get more kills than each other.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I think, so there's a drive in both of us that's playing out in our churches. We're trying to reach our communities. We're trying to see lost people know Jesus, and we're trying to grow our church. We're trying to plant more churches in our respective regions. Yeah. And so I think there can be a competitiveness where it's like saying, hey, if you're trying to grow your church, I'm trying to grow my church. If you want, how many guests did you have? I'm trying to see guests. Yeah. I don't necessarily know that that's totally unhealthy, to not necessarily be in competition with each other, but to be aggressive together.
Yeah. Yeah. To spur each other on to good works.
Absolutely. I do think I am more strategic because we're both chasing after the things and we're talking about it. Yeah. Like, it challenges my complacency because I know you're out there hustling. I'm going to be out there hustling.
And let's be honest, even if we weren't playing Fortnite and having these conversations almost daily, we'd be doing something else with that time. Mm-hmm. So if you can tie, and this is super practical and maybe too practical, but if you can tie a hobby, if you have a similar hobby as a pastor that you love in your area, just start doing it together, because these conversations will happen naturally. Absolutely. And you'll both be better because of it.
That's good. Well, that was going to lead my closing question. What's one step a pastor or ministry leader could take today to move closer toward real friendships? Let's not download Fortnite.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. You would have said it if the roles were reversed.
Absolutely.
Man, I would say text that person that you haven't texted, that you should text. Like, super practical. I feel like most of us have somebody that we like enough to be friends with. Yeah. just make time. I love what you said, actually, Phil. Make margin for it.
Well, you just convicted me because there's a local pastor that like we both like cycling, like which is biking outside, spandex, and all the fun things. So yeah, keep your comments to yourself. But I mean like real biking, like getting on the bike, riding 50, 60 miles together. And he's been messaging me, and I'm a little out of shape right now. So I'm like, the idea, and this guy's not, like, he's a beast. And so like, I'm like slightly intimidating, but I've been kind of blowing him off all summer, like not in an intentional way, but just busy and whatnot. I need to text this guy, and we need a bike. We need to get. I'm not, because we're recording the podcast. So, hey, take that step. What's one step you could do to move closer to friendships? Take that step and lock in some friendships. It'll make your life better. It'll make your soul better. It'll make your church better. So lock that in. But hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Ministry Mix. I hope you found today's conversation valuable. And if it has been valuable to you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, and make sure you review so that way your feedback can help us reach more ministry leaders just like you. Follow us on social, join our Facebook group, and if you got questions, we want to hear from you because we would love to talk about the things that you are thinking about in your everyday ministries. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you at the next episode.